going their way as that Poppy, Cassante, Sejuani band away. It is that Rumble, Skarner, Callista band on the other side. See what these kinds of first picks are going to be, where we're focusing at the Jace with some flexibility to start it off for BLG.
Yeah, if it does end up in the top lane, Bin has been on an absolute tear with this one, but like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be. Knight has also put in some good performances on it, and it looks so strong in both of those lanes that it is one of those perfect first picks. ThunderTalk, what do they respond with right here? We've seen a lot of teams try to pick up their junglers and their top laners very early on in these drafts, and immediately straight onto the Ambessa and the Vi. The Vi has also been one of those top tier junglers. It really unlocks your jungler to be able to be super aggressive early on, but it can fall off. You've got to play it very carefully. You don't want to fall behind on this one at all.
I just feel bad for Elk. He's just not going to get to play the video game this time around. I mean, once you pass that 20-minute, 25-minute mark, I'm sorry, Elk. You just don't get to interact with your champion anymore. We'll see if they go ahead and take another big hitter off the table. It is the Aurora take by Knight, instantly as well locked in as the Nocturne.
Now, Nocturne's very interesting in this sort of composition. It's very reliant on you managing to pick up a good early kill with that first ulti. If you're able to do that and get the ball rolling, that can be a great way forward. But it's quite similar to the Vi in that you have to get those early kills going. You can fall behind pretty hard. And with the Akali right here for ThunderTalk to round things off, like you said, I'm not so sure Elk is going to get to play this game.
You know, he has other stars on his team. Maybe we don't get to talk about the bot lane that we were just hooting and hollering about. But it is going to be some bot lane focus in the second phase, at least from TT's side of things, and BLG's first bans are going to be that Xayah and the Kai'Sa respectively. Hey, some respect over to WhatXN's Kai'Sa. The last time they saw that pick was a little devastating for the team. We'll see if they continue to focus that bot lane. Maybe some supports, things like that coming off the table.
I was about to highlight the Xayah as well as one of the few remaining pickups that Elk could grab to try to live in this game, try to survive for a little bit longer. I think the Ezreal is one of the other options still available that you can go for, but I still don't know that having an Arcane Shift and a Flash is enough versus these champions. Maybe it is play through your other lanes. It's not a bad shout to try to play through an Aurora and a Jace. Those are very strong champions to be able to carry through, but they play a very different style to the full team fight dive in composition that ThunderTalk have for themselves. Still do need to pick themselves up a bot lane right here, and there are a lot of the hyper carries still available. As much as we've taken a lot of the early aggressive mid-game spiking champions off of the board, things like the Jinx, Twitch, Aphelios, Jhin, all of those still available. Varus actually going to be the pickup right here. It gives you a little bit of non-committal engage, something you need in this composition because everybody else is committing full force.
Yeah, and at least being able to follow up a little bit of that as well as some of the range. I do wonder what the pick on the other side for BLG is going to be. They do still have counter pick support, I guess, for the side of TT this time around. So actually super pivotal when we were talking about the bot lanes. We put a lot of focus on Elk and WhatXN, but Feather and On going to have integral roles here. And we see a classic that we've seen recently. It is the Elk Ezreal coming through and potentially a little bit of frontline CC to join.
Yeah, the Ezreal, it really felt like the only remaining option to at least try to survive throughout this one. I wouldn't mind seeing the Leona here, something like the Nautilus as well. You need some committal or non-committal engage as well. Some frontline tankiness to be able to play around because you are a very squishy composition right here for BLG. Final pickup for ThunderTalk. Need to round this one out. Something that can work alongside this Varus. I wouldn't be surprised if it's another engage-based support right here. Oh, the Renata's interesting in this one. It doesn't give you too much in terms of the bot lane itself. You're very much going to be conceding that this bot lane is pretty 50-50, farming up, not looking to get too aggressive with it. You need to be careful to not get caught out by the Leona. But into things that love to dive straight on into the backline, Nocturne principle among them, this Renata is great at just saying, no, you are not allowed to do that. You can't jump onto us at all.
You're going to have to wait out those cooldowns so heavily for BLG. You're going to have to find a way to kind of make it work and not, I guess, play your cards too early because as soon as you get that counter engage, it could be so difficult. So the way that we have these two teams set up, it feels like BLG need to be pretty proactive in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they need to get themselves a lead as early on as possible. That's pretty standard for most team compositions. You don't want to fall behind, but any composition that has themselves a Nocturne, your champion gives the paranoia, whatever happens, so you're always useful to your team. You're not quite like some of these junglers we see, where you fall behind and, well, you're useless. You're barely a champion at all. It's not like an Elise who's fallen massively far behind. But at the same time, your ability to actually go in and try to kill onto these carries, onto 1xN or SeTab, is very reliant on you being able to pick up these early kills. And because this is such a TT composition, very dive focused, very aggressive in the way it wants to play, BLG need to get themselves in a good spot early on so they can unlock Bin and Knight to be able to weave their way through team fights, because as we keep highlighting, a squishy carry that's just sat there is not going to last long.
Yeah, not at all. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to get into the predictions, but it's a little bit of a spread. We'll probably get over that a little bit later on, but we're going to get into game number 1. You hear some of the little bit of differences in these team compositional strengths, but we're getting into a hot and heavy best of 5 between these two teams. BLG, the Titans of the LPL, versus TT in a do-or-die series.
Both of these teams knife's edge right now. Last time they played, it went to 5 games. We've got a lot of League of Legends in front of us right now, and fascinating team compositions to do it with. Both of these comps feel very indicative of the teams playing them, but ThunderTalk's, I can't think of a more ThunderTalk-based composition. The fact that Hoya, Beichuan, SeTab can all go flying in. The only thing with my questioning potentially of the Renata is that it's good at stopping what BLG want to do, but at the same time it isn't really going to be able to jump in with the rest of the composition. You don't have your support with you for everyone else.
True that. We're taking a quick look at the predictions. A lot of 3-0 believers here for BLG. I'm a solid Silver Scrapes enjoyer. I see you're on the other side of things here, as we'll go back to Gabe, talk a little bit about that here, Bloxer.
Yeah, I put ThunderTalk winning this one, but I really don't know. You can see here, clearly everybody in the LPL is also thinking that BLG is going to pick this one up.
Because if they lose, like, what do? You throw your hands up into the sky and you cry. Because this team should be dominant. This team should be looking at more champions in a 3-split year in the LPL. And that's why there's so much backing this BLG squad.
Third split just means a third cup to be able to lift for a squad like BLG. It would be a massive disappointment. There's no other way of putting it. If they weren't able to pick themselves up a win right here, make it to at least the finals, anything but making it all the way onto that invite-only international would be a massive disappointment. But still, there's a lot of game left to be played so far. You know, it's not like BLG are on the cusp of being eliminated quite yet. And if anything, I think ThunderTalk are the ones coming onto this one a little bit on the rope. We've talked about momentum, and I think ThunderTalk, more than any of the other teams I'm looking at right now in these playoffs, is vulnerable to momentum. They do not like getting behind in games, in series, other than they don't mind losing the first game, but from that point on, once they get their momentum going, they kind of need to keep it, and JDG stop them in their tracks.
Did indeed. See if they can pick themselves up, dust themselves off, as we're getting to the second half of these jungle clears. Both junglers starting on their top side, heading down towards bot lane. So hey, I think the spotlight's in the right place for this one.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised by seeing these junglers heading on down towards the bottom lane. If you can get there first, if you can get a good gank off, that would be great, but at the same time, I think the counter gank in this matchup is incredibly strong, especially for Beichuan. The Vi loves being second on into a gank. You've got plenty of CC to be able to disrupt what your opponents are trying to do, but with the push very heavily in the favor of ThunderTalk right now, it doesn't look like there's going to be too much of a potential for an initiation gank going on in the bot lane. And indeed, we are just going to see Wei head on up towards the top side of the map. Now, as much as the bot lane does need focus in this matchup, and we will continue heading back to it, these other lanes are pretty explosive for what they are. We've seen a lot of mid lane matchups recently, especially, where you really don't expect anybody to get a kill. That is not what you can say about this one.
Not at all. SeTab going to be trading his health bar very early, as that is traditionally what Akali's do to try to keep their head in the lane. Once we get that level 6 mark, that's where SeTab will feel a little bit more confident and comfortable. We do get the back completed by Wei. So first clears go through. No harm, no foul, no blood spilled. Beichuan will be spotted starting up his Raptors on the top side.
being able to keep a good tab on where Beichuan is throughout this jungle is going to be a key to success right here for BLG, something they've been so good at. It almost feels like they've got full vision on, no fog of war for this team sometimes, in the way they can track enemy junglers through, make sure they're not going to get caught out in bad spots. But for right now, you know, being able to keep tabs on these junglers specifically, ones that do need to get things going as early on as they do, going to be especially important.
I think it's also funny. Oh man, the health trade's going a little bit tough there, as SeTab will have to burn his TP to come back. Seeing exactly what the kind of mini meta of this series is going to be in terms of early dragon prio, the bounce between grubs and dragon, because we do have our first dragon coming up on the board right now. Both junglers pathing down that way, some pings as well coming out. We'll see if they want to tussle early.
So far, throughout this entire split, ThunderTalk have been very unwilling to just let objectives pass them by. Because they're so good at team fighting, they want to force as many team fights as possible in every situation that they possibly can. So it doesn't surprise me at all that we're going to see some early vision put around this Drake. If we do just get the basic 1-for-1 trade, though, where you can pick yourself up grubs for that first Drake, I think that would potentially benefit the team that's able to get themselves the grubs. As much as an early Ocean Drake is nice and would influence onto these lanes, these grubs are going to be incredibly important for being able to get the pressure on towers that you really need. Wei is going to try for a gank here.
Really nice Zenith Blade coming through from On. Handshake right back, and that'll be a handshake. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's one of the joys of this Renata. You can very much just say no to a lot of these team fights. Interestingly enough, that's going to be a push through the mid lane for Knight. He's going to roam on towards the top side, get a little bit of vision down. I'm surprised he didn't use that early prio to push down towards the Drake, see if they couldn't pick that one up for themselves. Instead, both of these teams going to just hover around the Drake. Feather actually does start it up. Do you actually want to go for this right here, ThunderTalk? They do, yeah. Instead, it is just going to be Wei heading up towards the top side.
Level 6s. I said it, SeTab looking for the all-in. It's solo bolo to get first blood for TT.
Oh, SeTab, that is going to be one for the highlight reel right there. We talked about it, right? The ability to get solo kills in this mid lane matchup is high, and SeTab showing off with this Akali. Now, if you are Elk right here, and there's already a kill onto your opponent mid laner, and it's an Akali, that makes me nervous in a way that the draft does already. And what a lovely little play right there from SeTab. I hope we get to watch it back through, because it was a lot of wave control and a lot of good poke happening from Knight. And then all of a sudden, the second that SeTab actually gets that ulti, boom, solo kill.
And I hate to say it, but I feel like Knight's got to read that situation. But there's literally that big break point when SeTab hits level 6.
Instantly. Immediately. And there's very little that you can actually do in that situation as Knight.
Oh, he brought backup. He said, big brother, come help me out. Zenith Blade hits, and that'll be a tank from Wei. Knight will get the kill right back. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
This is what you can do, right? In the individual 1v1, the second that 6 is hit, SeTab is able to pick up that kill. But bring friends, bring more members around. Something that On has been particularly good at throughout this split, has been roaming around, pairing up alongside Wei, and it's so good on the Leona. If you don't hit that Zenith Blade right there, you don't actually get the kill onto SeTab there. Just able to wander back away and keep up the pressure, keep threatening right here onto Knight. Instead, they end up with a big wave pushed underneath his tower, and SeTab gonna lose a lot of that advantage he'd been able to get for himself. Dark Seal back down to no stacks again. Feels bad.
No stacks for you. Now we take a little bit of stock of what the map is looking like to get a nice little plate farming of 1xn and bot side. Those 3 early grubs did go the way of BLG. That first dragon you saw went the way of TT. So we're very split in terms of what map control is looking like. In the next spawn of those objectives, about 2.5 for the grubs, 3 minutes for the dragon, are going to be heavily contested, and we will have level 6s across the board for those fights.
And this is the point at which I would expect both of these teams to want to go scrap for this one. Both of these compositions spike pretty heavily at the same sort of point. 1 to 2 items is where you're really going to be wanting to start these fights, but that does mean you want to get to that break point just a little bit earlier than your opponents, of course. ThunderTalk, they really don't like allowing opportunities to teamfight pass them by, and once you've got the level 6 on a couple of these carries, you've now got that non-committal engage that they were missing previously. If 1xn can hit a nice Corrupting Chains, that'll be a great way to kick off a teamfight. He's fine, he's all good. Not too risky, you know. I think the timing there was very intentional from Elk, knew that he was likely in a bad spot, and it is going to be that full swap coming out right here. Hoya, down in the bot lane, actually going to be playing against the bot lane right here of BLG. It's not the best time for either of these top laners, but that's the point, you're right. You're very much trying to get as much power into your bot lane as possible, and also, for ThunderTalk, there we go, having their bot lane towards the top side of the map means that once these grubs spawn in a minute's time, you're going to be in a much better spot to be able to pressure onto those and potentially take them.
I see the early setup for these two. There is no ball delivery comp, but Wei can still turn out the lights. On the other side of things for TT, I mean, they just find one target, they go all in, and that's how they win fights. So trying to see who they're going to be focusing, where they're going to be focusing is extremely important. As that bot lane is actually getting a little bit spicy under turret down there. We'll have to get Hoya back out of that one. Mid lane prio is the name of the game for TT right now.
Watching his health bar, it wasn't actually going down. It looked like instead the bot lane of BLG. Yeah, they were more focused on getting the tower. It's very unlikely to be able to actually pick up a kill onto the Ambessa, even with all of the CC of a Leona. But once you bring down the Nocturne, it will get a lot easier.
I mean, there's some ambulances on their way down here to try to save Hoya. He does farm out that wave, so nothing for BLG to play around. They were just trying to collapse the bottom side, maybe give over these grub spawns. We'll see Dragon coming up as well just in about 50 seconds, but the grubs should be in the hands of TT up on top side right now. Wei stopped his back.
Wei's staying here. There we go. I was going to say, Beichuan was also recalling, decided to stick around. Now, this is a risky dive if you go for it. TP.
I mean, they feel like they need to do something. They got to get a TP in. They're trying to get Hoya under turret, but this is dicey. BLG, they're under turret, but Hoya's back alive with the bailout, and Feather's going to hit the hostile takeover. Oh my goodness, Hoya still falls, and BLG are juggling masterfully as they take down the remaining members of TT. They get the place, they get the turret too, and all they paid for it was at least the life and some grubs.
That was a bit of a squeaker right there. Got a lot closer than it potentially needed to be as Feather manages to tick the 6 halfway through. But like you said, they needed to do something, right? Losing out on the grubs long enough before that first Drake spawns that there's nothing you can really swap it back for. Feels bad. You cannot allow that to happen. You can't allow ThunderTalk to just get themselves an advantage like that without any way of stepping up. BLG, they try for the bot lane dive. It was risky with just an Ambessa. At the start, though, Feather not having the ult, I was like, okay, it's fine. No ulti. But of course, you've got the bailout available to you as Feather, and it leaves Hoya alive for so much longer. As we have a look back at this one, the thing I was watching was Feather, can he hit 6? As much as there's masterful footwork happening from Hoya, really good dodging around to keep himself alive for as long as possible, Feather is actually the star of the show in this one. Finally manages to actually get the hostile takeover, but only lands it onto Knight. If he's able to get that across 2 members, Knight and Wei, potentially maybe get Elk in it as well, that play ends a heck of a lot differently because everybody here only actually has the health to hit one more tower shot before they die.
There might be a 2.5k lead for BLG early, but it's another Dragon going the way of TT. We'll keep track of the actual way that things pan out here in terms of that next Dragon focus, because you don't necessarily want to give TT that decision-making power of a soul point. But that's where I gotta give some huge props to Beichuan. I mean, this is a guy who came up through the FPX system that was so lauded on that FPX team, and it didn't work. And now, for over 2 years, we've seen this guy building himself up on TT, and he's taken Wei to task in terms of jungle focus on the game 1 of this series.
Really has, and has also, as much as he's been building himself up, has been being built around as well. ThunderTalk, they clearly think they've got something special in this guy. I would definitely agree with that assessment. And so far has been having a good time of it. Bit quiet though, would rather a little bit more aggression out of Vi early on. Has been very contented to just sit in the jungle, farm up, has got a decent little CS lead at the moment. But of course, Wei has been very aggressive so far in being able to pick up kills for his team. Hasn't actually put him ahead in any real sense of it. Bot lane, Bin, SeTab. I don't think they're going to fight each other to the death, but actually, hang on. Hi, Beichuan.
SeTab says, I got buddies here. We're going to take you down, Bin. Might be Giga, but right now you're small, and Beichuan takes that kill.
Yeah, the second that you've got Beichuan in the area, That's nice and easy, and there's actually going to be a kill going over to the Vi, calling for a little bit of early aggression, and we get it almost immediately with that one. Really nice to be able to pick up that kill. Unlocks a lot of just free lane space right here for SeTab as well. Going to be able to push this lane through, get a nice recall off. They don't see him.
Oh, they
it
saw him
lands!
because of the true shot. That's a huge combo.
No.
And now SeTab caught out even with that level difference. Way he's going to chase him down. He's trying to play some Alcove Gaming here, get a little bit more of it. But On is right here to try to play some games too. The Ignite goes down, and On will claim the kill.
I mean, it was an attempt at fancy feet right there. Hiding in that bush, you are just hoping and praying that you can dodge out from that true shot barrage. Elk lands it though, and that's the little bit of vision that you need. Even without being able to pick up that vision right there, there's a potential situation which SeTab still dies, but it's a lot harder to actually get that play off.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot easier for him to be able to use those fancy feet to dodge out. Instead, going to be the kill, and it's been so back and forth so far. But like you said, the gold lead very much has been in BLG's favor. They were able to pick up the feats as well because of grabbing that tower after the bot lane dive. Yeah. And it's put BLG in an overall very good spot. If you take a look at where the gold is sat especially, you've got a lot of power right now sat on Knight. Definitely a good place for it to be.
I would say so. That's the scary part about being in a situation where not much has happened and you're still at a deficit for TT. Because those nameplates, they matter. I know you can turn them off. I know you can try to hide, but the nameplates matter here in the LPL. And I think BLG will be very happy to give themselves an even playing ground to play through. As TT might be known for their scrappiness in that team fighting, but BLG are known to absolutely dominate them. We'll see who's going to step up. I think that's still the remaining question for me for BLG, is who is it going to be as we have the Rift Herald spawning right now.
Around this team fight, who decides to go flying on in? On is a pretty good person to look at. Could try to just run up. If you can land...
Ooh,
yeah, solar flare, that's a good start, but not quite able to hit it. ThunderTalk, they've also got the start around this objective.
Wei has no real way in. And I think the trouble with the Nocturne is you just become a paranoia bot, but maybe it's going to be enough. The Rift Arrow getting low. The engage is going to be taken. They found the backline. Perfect excuse from SeTab. Bailout will do nothing for you. You've got no hopes. You've got no dreams. As there is a bailout on the other side for TT. You got Bin coming in to try to make the difference. Nice Zenith Blade going to be dodged away from by Hoya. On is singled out by 1xN. And now TT have all the numbers they could possibly want. This is a 5v3, and BLG are overextending themselves. Beichuan's just going to chase down Bin. Did you watch the games, bud? Because we're still putting you in the dumpster.
Oh boy, this is what we were talking about. As much as you may have a lead going into that team fight, ThunderTalk, they just fight different. This team knows how the team fight, and the second that you don't land that initial solar flare out of On, it was as we were highlighting. How do they actually start this team fight off? Wei never actually turned the lights out in that fight either. That's a key tool just left on the table, not used up. And it means that ThunderTalk, they're able to position themselves really well around that objective. They get the Herald at the start of this one as well. But it's just the aggression from ThunderTalk to go flying on into the backline and immediately kill out onto the opposition jungler. And the second that you do that, you put yourself in a great spot to be able to play the rest of this fight out. Watch Beichuan throughout the entire fight is landing these Vault Breakers to perfection time and time again. If he misses any of these throughout the fight, he's gonna die. He can get turned on pretty early in these team fights. You're not that tanky at this point in the game as a Vi, but lands everyone that he needs to.
Bailout's been used. They've actually taken down 1xN. They couldn't get him. Now BLG, they're throwing a little bit of muscle around themselves. Elk gets knocked down by Beichuan. You've got the entrance from SeTab. He's trying to get the backline. Wei's getting low now. Things are getting a little bit spicy. SeTab gets hit, and no, he's down. Elk can't get more, though. He's going to go with the cleanse. Bin looking onto Hoya now. They might be able to follow this up. They have a lot of range. They have a lot of follow-through. Wei looking to try to get something. One more, and there he is. He gets the kill back on a feather at BLG. They're kicking it, screaming back into this game.
Yeah, BLG, they're not going to allow this game to happen to them. Picking up this mid lane tower as well. Huge injection of gold, and that's teamfight 1 right before they head on down to take this Drake. Huge swing back and forth. The gold graph on this game going to look a little bit like a roller coaster so far in this one. Beichuan in the area, not going to be here in time to be able to actually get a steal off. Still potentially stepping up here, really? I mean, he has friends on the way.
Yeah, he has 1xN on the way. I think this might be a little bit overzealous, but like it's a piercing arrow combo! Oh my god, Finn gets his life ripped from his very soul, and Odds going down as well. One more vault breaker for good measure. Beichuan is showing up.
And showing off with that one. I mean, that was a level of confidence that I love to see from this kind of player. We've been highlighting him throughout the early stages of this game. A key component for ThunderTalk, someone they've been building around for a while and paying it back right here. Elk under massive threat. There you go.
Elk, no way, Jose. I said he's going to hate his life in this game, and he absolutely does. His life is no longer. It is forfeit as TT screaming from the clouds, just like you, Cal, used to do. That Thunder is talking.
This game is nuts. If this is indicative of the rest of the best of 5 right here, oh boy, you are not going to have a voice to end this one out. Neither of these teams want to give up an inch right here. And you can see it's aggression again out of Knight that kind of overpulls everyone in. I wasn't 100% sold on the Renata early on in this one, but has actually been paying back really well so far. A ton of great handshakes that are just disrupting everything that you're actually trying to do throughout these team fights as BLG.
Oh, but he's so good!
Yeah. The fact he dies at the end of this is a shame, but it still baits Elkin enough that he has low enough health later on to get taken out by the dive. This one, I was pretty sure in this situation that Beichuan was going to go back in. He decides not to, the right decision, but it's then a few seconds later that he goes in and amongst 4 members. So much confidence, now has those 2 items completed, and this is the peak of power that you're going to get as a Vi. The moment at which you've got that Sundered Sky, as well as the Black Cleaver, this is your peak. This is your moment right here as Beichuan. And if ThunderTalk want to walk away with a win, when the game is as dead even as it is 21 minutes in, it's going to be on him to find those engages.
In a situation like this, though, when you look at the compositional strengths, TT's is so much easier to execute. You literally need to land the cease and desist or a public execution onto a pertinent member, and you can take that away, where BLG have weird entrances. They have to find their way in a lot of different strategies to play through, and that right now in a game number 1 that means so much is playing to TT's advantage as they herald down in bot lane. They get 1 turret but will not continue the siege.
Everybody gonna back off, playing around Atakan. Oh, you don't want to step into that bush.
Solar Flare hits onto 1xN. 1xN's in trouble. Get the President out of there. They do indeed, and they make him out with Hoya coming in through the TP. That hostile takeover being down is big. Do BLG want to push the pressure here onto the Atakan?
Starting up Atakan and then having to peel off of it is a miserable way to try to play out a team fight. It does so much damage. Atakan has hands, and peeling away from it doesn't stop it from following you and continuing the fight. I think it's definitely the right decision for BLG to back off of this one. You need to win a team fight before playing around Atakan. It really doesn't work the other way.
Knight,
no!
Oh, he got a bunny hop, but can you get very far? Beichuan getting very low on his health bar. Now Knight with a little bit of damage back from him. True shot's not going to be enough. Whew, that was close for Beichuan, but he does get out. That was a massive shutdown waiting.
As much as you are doing a lot of damage as Beichuan, so does Knight. It can be so tricky to actually try to jump an Aurora in these situations. Between Worlds, such a strong disengage tool. As much as you don't want to use it like that, it is still a good way to be able to keep yourself alive. But I would like to go back to your point before we got a little bit more of the craziness. Talking about the ways for BLG to get into these team fights, because you're absolutely right. It's so tricky for them to play this one out. You highlighted it earlier as well. No ball delivery system. It's not like we've got that Nocturne Orianna combo that makes it very clear how you're going to try to engage these team fights. In that previous fight, we saw On land a pretty big solar flare, and it was a good start, but there was no real follow-up. BLG are not quite like ThunderTalk in the way that they just pull the trigger all at once, all together, the second a piece of CC lands. They're a little bit more calculating with when they decide to go in on these team fights, but they still do need to pull the trigger at some point, and I think it's going to have to be a combination of On and Wei going in at the same sort of time to make it so there's an unwinnable proposition in front of 1xN. Do I cleanse this bit? Do I cleanse that bit? Where do I go?
Oh, the paranoia. Well, speaking of, he's going to have to choose. Now Wei is locked down for the cease and desist. You can't spell shield out of that one, and Wei is down. Jungler down means TT are going to run rampant on BLG. That's a big true shot barrage back across SeTab, having to get away from BLG's backline. Knight keeping distance here. I don't think this is a fight that TT want to go. You're giving options to BLG, but maybe they just take the fight anyway. Cease and desist is not going to be available. You have to find another way to get your lockdown. Maybe it's a vault breaker going through. Elk looking to keep his distance, though, and BLG playing their comp beautifully right now. Use this poke, use this prod, and keep them at arm's length. Zenith Blade going a little bit wide. TP coming back in. That's going to be SeTab to try to pale out the rest of his team. BLG, things quiet down with TT still in the lead.
That was a weird TP right there. That's a TP reposition from bot lane up into that bush, but you kind of just lose out onto that one. You're now resetting without the TP. You're just walking back into the lane. Beichuan is taking this blue buff at the point at which BLG are taking the dragon. This is a loss of a
trade, right?
Yeah. Straight off of getting a pick on the enemy jungler. I mean, as much as we praise ThunderTalk for their snap decision-making, going in on teamfights, this was them not backing themselves, not feeling confident to be able to actually step up. Knight dealing a little bit of damage, and that was the thing. Knight was dealing massive chunks of damage to Hoya on the backline, who'd also missed the public execution, and then the poke from this BLG composition. Round 2, here we go again.
We're just starting it up here. Like you said, it's very weird to pull away from the Atacon. He's so slippery. There's the cease and desist. Beichuan tries to go for Wei again, and it doesn't work for the second time in a row. They will back off of the Atacon, just having used a couple of their abilities at least, and Atacon will reset itself. So we're back to dead ball.
You get the solar flare out of On, so that's a good start for your next team fight. But again, this is the trap of the Atacon, right? There are other things that you could be playing around on the map. There is a very low health turret sat top lane that ThunderTalk could go pick up for themselves. But they're not. They're just going to sit around this objective. Everybody's going to sit around Atacon, try start it up, try begin the fights, but it's not the objective that you can start up and then peel off of. It's not like Baron. And it's a trap that I see even the best teams internationally beginning to fall into, where they get so focused in onto Atacon. Hey, it is strong. I can understand why they want it so badly, but there are other things you need to play around. Finally, we're going to see somebody head top lane, actually pick up this wave. It's standing gold. You're just sort of leaving on the map. It's an experience that people are just not picking up for themselves. It's item breakpoint you're missing out on.
So let's talk about map state a little bit. We're almost on 3 items for Knight. The golden left hand of BLG, and here he is, putting a little bit of moves on him. Paranoia comes through. 1xN gets bailed out, but he dies immediately after. That's a big hostile takeover right back. Bin has joined the fight, but look on the side. Beichuan going for the lockdown, going for Elk, the man with the mission, and it's a double kill for SeTab. Now the rest of TT are surrounding Bin. Bin, he's going down, and Hoya's got his number yet again. TT are steaming ahead, and there's pings to the big purple worm. They're looking to make this one lethal.
Yeah, this is a much easier objective to take, especially after you win a team fight in such convincing fashion. Wei is still alive, but doesn't really have a way into the pit right now. Has vision, could potentially go for the steal. This would be a crazy one to be able to get off. I mean, hey, if he could do it, legendary. Nah, not gonna go for it. I'd be very surprised if he did. You're basically just giving over the ace at that point. So like you said, big purple worm gonna be picked up right here for ThunderTalk. Let's look back at this team fight, because this was an engage out of BLG. Knight wants this fight, goes straight in onto 1xN, and 1xN does die in this fight. That should be the one team fight for you right here, but the rest of the members out of ThunderTalk just play this team fight out better. Every single second of this team fight, SeTab is hitting all of his spells. Every single one of them. And this is the Akali that got the first blood in the solo kill. Manages to land so many of these shuriken flips, picking up the kills left and right. So well played out of every single member of ThunderTalk right there. And we highlight it. Oh, hang on.
Oh, we're back. Okay, hostile taker had been used. They tried to get him. Oh my god, the chains of corruption. Wei is gone. 1xN makes the difference. BLG were on the back foot, and now they're reeling. Hoya's under turret. He's healing. He's going down. Knight takes him out, and now Ben trying to come over and lick the wounds of BLG, but 1xN, he's carving those arrows into their body.
They can keep pushing through right here. You've also spent Beichuan up towards the mid lane, to get that push going, and this is a huge swing of gold. As much as the Baron was the beginning of this play, it's now about what you can really wring from it. They also potentially want to go and pick themselves up the Atakan. With Wei dead for 13 more seconds, it's as good a time as any to go and pick up this next objective for yourselves. And now also being able to respawn through on these fights makes this so hard for BLG to play out. They had themselves in a good spot in this game, but it felt like they spent too long sort of stood around the objectives bot lane, not quite being able to pick up onto either the Drake or Atakan, weren't able to keep pushing that advantage, but beyond that, their composition hasn't allowed them for easy team fighting.
And we take a look back at this, how this all started off. Knight just gets picked out just a little bit, but Beichuan, I mean, this is the bread and butter of what this comp looks to do from the draft. We called it. I mean, you single target a focus down, and they will not be able to play the game. And unfortunately, that works out twofold.
Yeah, the public execution landing out of Hoya as well on the back line. He's on the tower, taking shots, doesn't mind. Sure, you go down, but more importantly, you're just stopping this very strong at this point, to be fair, despite getting put behind Elk, from really being able to land any of that poke, actually being able to sit in, hit those mystic shocks, and do what he needs to. ThunderTalk, they are playing out the second half of this game masterfully. It was a bit of an iffy early game, but this one is great.
Yeah, the difference, the level up from their last series, the domination that we saw levied against them with that JDG roster. They learned from that, and they learned from their mistakes. And I just have to give more love to Beichuan. I mean, the guy has been the linchpin in their kind of mechanical setup here for TT. He is the guy that's been kicking off a lot of the big picks, and he's the guy that was so lauded when he came up through that FPX system. He was the next big jungler. He's the guy with the mechanics that can take your team to the next level, and we didn't see that play out for him. But here on TT, it's been a slow and steady burn that's raged into a fire, maybe backed by that Phoenix a little bit.
TT, they're the sort of team that needed this sort of carry jungler. Some teams very much benefit from a map control jungler who's gonna not take the resources for themselves and get everybody else ahead. Beichuan can get everybody else ahead, but he can also definitely play it through himself. We're getting hunted right here, gonna get jumped by multiple members.
I mean, they're Steven down here. They got everybody. They have the Atakan GA. Oh no, Knight!
Oh, Knight, no.
Hoya goes for the predict, knows where he's going to go, and Knight might get stuck between his own two worlds as TP's coming down for TT. 1xN has caught out Ben, pushed him away from the fight, and these Atakan GAs are looming like nightmares in front of BLG.
BLG, they're going to keep playing around this bottom side of the map.
Oh,
jump
the flash
onto
play.
Wei. Oh, Wei
I mean, they have Atakan.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? You can keep pushing on forward. Some teams, I have been a little bit worried that they've been overusing the Atakan and sort of just giving 200 gold to your opponents, but you can play so much more aggressively in this situation. It does now fall off, so they do no longer have themselves those revives, but still, they were able to get a ton of gold from it. The gap now sat at 6,000, a decent lead for this point in the game. But we've got a minute 20 until the next Baron going to be spawning. TP actually trying to flank and catch somebody out.
Trying to get SeTab. He has flash still available. The speed up from Ben. He's just going to go all in
he just
here.
Go for
He's got him.
Wait, he's got him.
His own gigabit play as he takes down Ben. Looking for a Knight as well, but has no more gas in the tank. Does have a little bit of an exit strategy, though Knight's looking to hop, skip, and a jump his way to this kill. Elk wants one more auto. SeTab goes golden. I don't think he can get out of that one, and Knight's going to claim that kill, but what have they lost? Pressure on top side, pressure on mid, and TT aren't giving up.
Yeah, time spent bot lane turns into more gold in TT's back pockets. Sure, you get a shutdown at least onto SeTab. You need to make plays like this as BLG, but the fact it's not a clean kill, you don't manage to just pick that one up, move on with your life. You spend time Mickey Mouse chasing him around in that bottom side, nearly giving over another kill. If that second Shuriken Flick had have landed, it could well have been a kill onto Knight as well.
And it's honestly just a pleasure to get to watch something like this. To watch TT bounce back from that hefty upper bracket loss now into pretty much domination of BLG so far in this one, but BLG are a team that you can never count out, although Elk might be counted out now as he has a Hoya looking to chase him down. Although you get Way's paranoia, there's not much else to say. Public execution goes down, Way is gone, and the cease and desist was saved to take down Elk. Elk takes him down!
No!
Beichuan ends Elk's life, and Hoya's still alive!
He doesn't even die!
Hoya's still alive! The man will never die, and TT will scream from the ashes of that phoenix that Beichuan was born into. He will straight go to the clouds and scream that ThunderTalk victory for game number 1.
Are ThunderTalk BLG's kryptonite? This
They
team,
have to be.
They just know how to play team fights better than BLG do. 8-0-10 for Beichuan. Hoya doesn't even die at the end of that team fight. Cinema. Absolute cinema on that first game, and we've got at least 2 more of these. BLG, the drawing board calls. That game, it didn't work. That composition, they had no way to start their fights.
TT are gaming, baby!
Yeah.
Oh my god, the reason why this is so ridiculously hype is the difference between these two teams' stories coming to this. You said it perfectly at the very beginning. BLG, nothing but victory and a date to first stand. That's all that works for them. For TT, anything from this point on is an absolute miracle, and they have come out swinging. I mean, they mean business, and it's on Hoya, it's on Beichuan, those 2 core members that make it come true, and my god, what a story.
We highlighted the bot lane for good reason. These bot lanes have been crazy, but in a game like this, where you've banned out a lot of the very aggressive pickups in the bot lane, and they weren't really on the hyper carries either, the Varus, the Ezreal, as much as they're interesting, they're not particularly flashy in the way that they're going to be able to pick up a ton of kills for themselves early on, so it's on the rest of the map to see what you can get going. That first blood, immediately going over to SeTab on the 1v1 kill, straight into getting jumped by 3 members and dying himself.
Crazy, man.
Once you see that, you know we're in for a bit of a banger, and it just didn't stop from that point. Beichuan, I was questioning his playstyle throughout the first 5 minutes. He was kind of just sat in the jungle, not particularly looking to farm. It's okay, you can do that as the Vi, especially once you've got that level 6, that's when you really unlock those team fights, but I was expecting a little bit more. I was expecting him to play a little bit more aggressively, but from the moment he got that first gank off bot lane and actually got onto the map and started doing things, he never let his foot off of the gas.
Yeah, and that's what's so incredible to watch this team come together and execute a game plan like that, because I'll just say, it was like watching BLG stand in the middle of the road watching a truck come at them and hit them, because you could see and how quickly TT were willing to go with the draft that they had. They knew what they were getting at. They knew that if they had that single target focus, BLG would not be able to handle it, and they didn't. And I think it's telling that TT are extremely prepared for this BLG team. They came in prepared for game number 1, and they pick up their first red side win of the playoffs itself.
Yes.
I think BLG is reeling a little bit in that back room.
They must be. I mean, first pick Jace. Where was he? For Bin. Where was he? He did nothing in that entire game. There was one semi-good team fight right there out of BLG around the bottom lane Drake, where they're able to get some good poke off, use the composition to stop ThunderTalk from picking themselves up at that Drake. That was good. But look at this swing. They were in not a massive advantage for themselves, 2,500, but it's enough for the point of the game in which you can see that level, but it's reflected more than anything in the damage done. The Aurora for Knight was doing good work, but the whole rest of the composition felt like it wasn't working. You were so reliant on Way or on managing to land something to get a team fight started, and it was that last pickup of the Renata that really stopped a lot of that from happening.
I'm just the Nocturne itself, obviously a powerful pick with the Paranoia. Usually we see it with a combination of things. Didn't work out this time around. I think BLG are going to want that one back, or maybe it's preemptive to try to get it out of the series. I don't know, obviously, but the biggest question has to be, again, what we kind of asked midway through that game is who's going to step up, because we know all 5 of these players can step up when their moment is called, but it's who's going to step up in this series, who's going to stop them from getting beat twice in their best of fives against TT, not only in groups, but now here in playoffs. And this is the last-ditch effort for BLG if they want to try to make it to that first stand tournament.
Last time these two teams played, the first 2 games did go over to ThunderTalk.
They did.
Then we get a swing back and a banger of a series all the way to Silver Scrapes best of 5. ThunderTalk pick it up for themselves. It's not like BLG don't know how to play from a deficit. That's something I actually would have questioned of them for the last almost entire year, where they never really got behind other than in the finals of MSI and Worlds. This version of BLG, they've gone through the fire a little bit more. They know how to play from behind.
The fire they created themselves and put under themselves, and then
exactly
that one.
Hey, they needed to be more well-rounded potentially. And if they are able to best ThunderTalk, who seem to put up the best challenge to them of anybody else, then that might be the next level of BLG unlocked. If they can slay this enemy, if they can stop this Kryptonite from taking them down, perhaps. But ThunderTalk in Game 1 at least, they have shown time and time again that they have the keys to success when it comes to beating out BLG. It never felt like BLG got into this one, and I think we can put a lot of blame on the draft. That's where I'm very excited for going into this next game, because drafts, Fearless, you can't pick up the same thing. We don't like this BLG composition. Well, luckily, there's no threat of it happening to us again. And so, what do they change? Where do they go to pull out a victory? Because they need one.
I'm looking back through some of these highlights. I'm still so impressed at some of the mechanical skill we saw from SeTab against literally the best mid laner in the LPL right now. And see him get a solo kill on Knight on the Akali Aurora matchup. Like, actually just so you see that the team's getting ridiculously hyped. There's a lot of people that could earn the MVP here. We'll be getting to the MVP here shortly, but I think SeTab deserves a lot. I think 1xN was schmovin' on that Varus. He was having a really, really good game. A lot of the focus was going towards him and being able to be bailed out time and time again, having those entrances. But I think Beichuan has to take it, man. That guy was on fire.
Yeah, there's... As much as everybody else plays well, it's all off the back of the fact that Beichuan... Hey, we were questioning BLG, who's going to step up? Well, there was no such questions for ThunderTalk. Beichuan was going to start these fights every time. There was that play just after the Drake fight where he goes in basically by himself, trusting his team's going to get there, and it's the Vault Breakers. And it's gorgeous. I hope we get a highlight of that if Beichuan does end up winning this MVP, as he should. But it's such a risky champion. Yeah, there we go. To try play. As much as it is, I think, the strongest jungler we've seen throughout the split so far in the LPL, if you miss those Vault Breakers, especially early on, when you've only got a couple items under your belt, when you're just sat on those first 2, you can just go in, miss that miss that Vault Breaker, die. And that's your contribution to the team fights. We didn't get to see that at all. Didn't die a single time. When you play that kind of engaged champion and aren't sitting back, you're actually aggressive with it and don't die a single time, that's a heck of a performance.
It was a heck of a performance. Congratulations, Beichuan, for earning the MVP in Game 1. A lot of game left to go. BLG needing to find a bounce back. Before we head off into the darkness for a little bit until we get ready for Game 2, got to give a huge shout out because we're extremely, extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level up our show on a daily basis. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, paying broadcast talent, paying behind the scenes people as well. But a huge bulk of it pays us right here on the screen and our content creators. Shout out to Patty, shout out to Shodos, shout out to our content editors as well. It's been awesome to see the team kind of come together. So please subscribe to us on Coffee and YouTube. Please get in on those conversations about interviews, ask questions, see the interviews early, because we should have some playoff interviews coming up for you. So please go subscribe and support our wonderful project. And if you're doing that, then go ahead and go do that and then come back in just a few minutes when we have Game 2 and see if BLG come back.